and thanks again for joining us for another episode of Tees Valley Business's EU and International Trade podcast. For those of you unaware, this is a series of short podcasts brought to you by the EU Trade Support Team. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to have a look forward to the January 2022 changes and give a brief overview of how they can affect you. To help us do this, I'm very fortunate to be joined by Ben once again. How are we doing?
I'm very good, thanks, Shani. Happy to be back.
So Ben, January 2022, what can you tell us?
Right, well, we're looking at three main changes. There are more issues going on, but picked what I think is the three biggest ones, which we will discuss today. So we've got, firstly, the tightening on the rules of origin and ensuring businesses are compliant. Secondly, the requirement to complete full import custom declarations. And finally, the requirement to make a pre-notification via iPaths for particular goods. Now, if it's alright with you, Shawnee, I'd like to start with tightening of the rules of origin. I think the added compliance which people need to prepare for. Really, I feel it's probably something which a lot of people may have missed and could cause unexpected issues and delays come the new year.
Totally agree, Ben. Firstly, for anybody who is struggling to grasp rules of origin, generally, we have another podcast and a webinar discussing the rules of origin, so I definitely advise people to start there. Yeah,
and that's best place to go. Hopefully, whether people have watched that, listened to that podcast or watched the webinar, people now have a general understanding of how to claim preferential tariff rate under the UK-EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the TCA. Hopefully they understand that a statement on origin is required, or they may be relying on importers' knowledge. But what we want to emphasise today is the compliance side of it. So the evidence needed to support your claim, because that is what we're going to see tightening from the 1st of January. So, because I think throughout 2021, really, we've seen a relaxed and a lenient approach towards customs compliance, especially with regards to the rules of origin. But from the 1st of January 2022, customs are going to move from asking the question, have you got a statement on origin, to asking the question, have you got the proof to support that claim for preferential tariff rate? Now, they might seem two fairly similar questions, but the difference in approach can be the difference between goods getting through customs with no issues to experiencing delays and unexpected costs at the border. So it's vital that businesses get it right.
So Ben, I think it's really important that you give us some examples of the type of evidence that might be required.
Yeah, so I suppose it's important for people to understand who is responsible for collecting that evidence. So the exporter is the one who provides the statement on origin. So it is the exporter who needs to collect the evidence to show that they meet the necessary requirements. Alternatively, if you rely on importers' knowledge, then it is the importer, obviously, who needs to collect and keep the relevant records. So, going back to your question, what is the type of evidence that people might want to collect? Well, they need to make sure that it illustrates how their goods meet the specific rule for their product. So, for example, if you're relying on a change in tariff heading rule, let's say, then you would need evidence to show that all the non-originating material and the commodity codes for those non-originating materials, so the commodity code for your final product is not the same or does not have the same first four digits as those non-originating raw materials. But like I said, it all comes down to the rule and making sure that you have evidence to satisfy that rule.
So, talking about evidence, Ben, we've got to mention suppliers' declarations. What are they?
Yeah, we do, because I think suppliers' declarations are very important. It's not always as simple as you manufacture the whole product, which is then sold to a final customer. It's often the case that there may be a number of different suppliers or intermediaries in that supply chain. So, for example, let's say you manufacture a motorbike which is to be sold into France. So you technically manufacture the motorbike at your base in the UK, but you're actually sourcing the wheels and engine from a separate UK supplier. Now, you should always request a supplier's declaration for those wheels and engine to show that they were manufactured or processed in the UK, or alternatively, what is the country of origin for those wheels and engine. Without this, you might find it difficult or even impossible to satisfy the rules of origin to show that the bike you've manufactured can actually be classed as UK originating.
I think there, Ben, we've done as good a job as anybody can in trying to explain these changes in a couple of minutes. I think, though, the important point to remember is that we are talking about compliance. That is what is changing, that is what is tightening, and with compliance, hand in hand, is the introduction of full import declarations.
Yeah, and I think that brings us nicely to the second point. So from January 2022, UK importers are having to complete a full customs declaration when goods are brought into the UK. Now, a lot of listeners may have been relying on the 175-day delayed declaration easement throughout 2021, but now they need to have everything ready to be able to complete a full import declaration when their goods reach the GB border.
So, would you say, Ben, that there are two main questions that people need to be answering, and that is who will be completing the customs formalities for me, and what information do they need from me, and how far in advance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first question is relatively straightforward. So, who's going to complete the customs formalities? Is it going to be a customs intermediary, freight forwarder, courier? Some businesses may do it themselves as well. I'd probably advise against this. There are additional costs involved. It can be quite complex and time consuming completing a customs declaration, especially if you're not specialised in that field. In terms of the second question, hopefully businesses have got used to the information they need to provide by completing these supplementary declarations. Obviously, the clear difference is that rather than having the 175-day grace periods, rather than having that control to get all the information together and complete it when you wish or when you've got all that together, that control and that part's now gone. You've now got to make sure that you're prepared and you prepare all those documents ready for the goods reaching the GB border. So preparation's the key there. And this is with all goods, including standard goods. There are, however, surely extra requirements on imports of some specific goods.
There is indeed, Ben, which coincidentally leads us nicely onto our final point, EUBpaths. So what is EUBpaths?
EUBpaths, I suppose, or give its full name, the import of products, animals, food and feed system, needs to be used to notify enforcement authorities about imports of live animals, animal products, and high-risk food and feed not of animal origin. So this EUBpaths requirement, it's already been delayed, obviously now delayed till the 1st of January, so hopefully businesses who this applies to will have some understanding of what's going to be required of them. But by pre-notification, we mean that businesses need to complete an EUBpath or complete the EUBpath requirements at least 4 hours before the goods reach the GB border. But it's important to note that unless you have extenuating circumstances, this 4-hour benchmark will actually be up to 24 hours from the 1st of July 2022. So that's an important thing to consider.
Now, Ben, who does EUBpaths relate to? Because it won't be relevant to everybody listening.
No, it won't be. And I think, as the name suggests and as we've touched on, EUBpaths is a concern for businesses who import either products of animal origin, so POAO, so that's animal products that are for human consumption. Also for importers of animal byproducts, ABP, so material of animal origin that are not for human consumption. Or finally, high-risk food not of animal origin. So HRFNAO.
I think, Ben, it's important for these businesses to understand what we mean by pre-notification. So what information is necessary to complete IPAFs?
It is a bit of a list, but, putting it simply, you need to know what type of animal product are you importing. So, the animal byproducts, product of animal origin, HRFNAO. Secondly, the origin of the animal products. You've got to know the commodity code, the commodity type, the species of the commodity. We need the weight as well, the date of arrival into GB, the reason for importing the consignment. So, is it for the internal market, research, transit, etc.? The consignment's place of destination. You need the address and contact details for place of origin, the importer and place of destination, and finally the details of the port of entry. So, it is a fair list. And I think the only other point which people need to realise about IPAFs is that from the 1st of July 2022, you will need to include an export health certificate. Now, I can't stress enough, this isn't the 1st of January. At the earliest, it's the 1st of July, but recently found out that that's actually been staged in as well. There's a staged approach to that. So the earliest you'll need that export health certificate is the 1st of July. And that export health certificate is actually a requirement that falls on the EU supplier. So the EU supplier needs to complete that. It might be, and I think in our opinion, hopefully, the introduction of the export health certificate will actually make it easier for the UK importer, because a lot of the information which we've just listed there, businesses will actually get from that export health certificate. So, and I think, in my opinion, when export health certificates do come in, it will hopefully make it easier for the UK importer. Really, around all that and everything we've discussed there, can't really stress enough how important it is to have a strong line of communication between you and your supplier.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's vital that people prepare and work alongside their customs intermediaries and EU partners to ensure that your supply chain works smoothly. Preparation and communication, simple as that. Now, I appreciate that we've outdone ourselves today and managed to fly over not just one, but 3 big changes. But I hope we've given people an insight into the importance of preparing for these upcoming changes. I'm sure Ben will agree that if anybody needs any further support, then please do get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only on these topics, but any areas of trading with the EU, which businesses might have found difficult, challenging since the 1st of January 2021. We are a free service within the Tees Valley area, so you've got nothing to lose by contacting us. We are happy to help, no matter what the issue is.
Yeah, and there's so many ways in which your business can contact our team. You can access support from our helpline by calling 01642 662 778, or you can contact us via email at EUBusinessSupport@teesvalley-ca.gov.uk, where we will be able to answer any queries and, if necessary, book a telephone or Teams appointment so that we can discuss any issues in more detail. Please visit the Tees Valley Business website, which is www.teesvalleybusiness.com, to find the latest EU information, our monthly newsletters and our webinar series. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast today, and if so, you can find the rest of the podcast series on the website. All that's left for me to do is to say thank you very much to Ben for your help today. I hope that businesses have found it useful, and I hope to see you again on a future podcast.
No, my pleasure, Shawnee. Happy as always to help, and like you said, hope listeners have found it useful.
Thanks again to everyone for listening. That's all from us today. Goodbye.